Hi, I'm Josh Curving, and welcome to another Death Battle prediction video. But first, we have a little bit to talk about for the last two Death Battles, so I'll go in order for that. So, Bayonetta versus Dante. A lot of the internet is actually kind of equally annoyed about that one, because while some people, yes, do agree that Dante would win, even the people who do are calling pretty huge amounts of bullshit on the fight itself. I know the full research team all said that Bayonetta would win, and even gave all of the information that led to her winning, but Death Battle kind of picked and chose their way through it, and kind of disregarded anything that made it so that Dante would lose. I know for a fact that one of them specifically stated that Dante's regen gets slower as he gets injured. So they just kind of disregarded things. So it kind of makes it so that there's not really much of a point in saying what they did wrong, because just they kind of did everything wrong. The animation was good. Like, oh yeah, it was fantastic. But there was a few things even in the fight that I didn't like. Like, I found it very annoying that, throughout the entire fight, Bayonetta was the only one who was getting incredulous as Dante did stuff. And, that was one of the telltale signs where I was like, okay, she's probably fucked. I also really didn't like the blatant DBX plug-in there where they had Jean and Trish come in. I was not a fan of that, because in the animation, I know that the animation is not, the verdict itself, but I feel like the fight should be kept as close to the research as possible. And when you start throwing in things like their teammates and stuff like that, when they weren't even alluded to in the intro, it kind of kills it, in regards to that. That entire chunk there is kind of useless almost. Apart from that, there's really not much to say. Bayonetta blatantly dwarfed him in every way, and they just decided to kind of disregard that. Speaking of which, Bowser versus Ganondorf. I did post on my Bayonetta versus Dante video about this fight, but there was a good amount of time where it was just kind of... I had posted it when it had come out, because it came out on the Sunday. I was planning on recording then, but I couldn't ultimately get it up before the battle was posted. And I kind of said exactly what most people have been saying, that Bowser blatantly has too many feats that completely counter out anything that Ganondorf has, which is basically true. But what I also said was that I wouldn't particularly mind if Ganondorf won, because of the fact that I'm a huge Zelda fanboy. Even though I do actually have Bowser on my chest right there, right now. It's okay, I've got the Hyrule Historia tattooed on my back, so the fanboy counters out. So ultimately their biggest fuck up with Bowser versus Ganondorf was, the fact that they said he could not die to anything but holy weapons. And once again, this is another thing that their research team specifically warned them about, and they disregarded it. I know the exact wording that one of their researchers used. They said, unless you are ready to claim that a full punch from a not holding back Superman would not be capable of killing Ganondorf, then that is a no-limits fallacy and should be disregarded. And lo and behold, we have our top tier in Death Battle: Superman and Ganondorf. But overall, the animation, a lot of people didn't like it, but I actually thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I thought that the tennis was a really, really nice touch. But ultimately, I don't know. I was fine with it. I was a bit disappointed that Ganondorf didn't use his swords at all, but fuck it, whatever. I don't care. their biggest issue with that one was the no limits fallacy with him not dying, but the other thing was the weird assumption on Ganondorf's curse. The one that he killed the Great Deku Tree with was pretty much what they hinged his victory on, which was a bit of a stretch, considering the Great Deku Tree was actually killed by putting a parasite inside it, one that young Link at the start of Ocarina of Time was fully capable of fighting. Not only that, but it took a long time for that curse to kick in. Way longer than the instantaneous thing they had with Bowser. It's not a good verdict. So overall, we have 2 stinkers in a row. 2 pretty bad verdicts. Let's hope we don't get a third, because this next one is about as obvious as those 2 are. So Jak and Daxter versus Ratchet and Clank. I've been kind of not really in a lot of the discussion on it, on like the ScrewTac forums and such, but I've seen enough to kind of make it blatantly obvious who should win. So there's no real point in going into the stats themselves, because actually in terms of physical stats, both are kind of similar, though Ratchet does have armor that negates like 90% of damage. So there's that. And then you have their weapons. The guns, which are going to basically be the crux upon this whole battle. And when you look at it, anything in his arsenal that Jak has, Ratchet has either an equivalent, a superior, or a direct counter. One of the biggest, most common arguments is, oh hey, Jak has a time stop. That would be wonderful if Clank didn't automatically null out time stop effects from happening to either him or Ratchet. So that's not working. And then you go, oh hey, Jak has has his nuke eco attack. And then you blatantly look at Ratchet, who has been using mini nukes and nuclear weapons as basic weapons since like the second game. And then the rest of the battle just becomes all the various ways that like Ratchet has superior weapons. Like, if you even look at their ammo types, who's going to be more likely to run out of ammo first? So Jak has one gun that switches between, I believe it's 12 settings. So each of those 12 weapons, and then he has 4 different ammo types to spread between them. So if he runs out of one ammo type, then you now have this situation where 3 of his weapons are being cut out completely. He can't even use them. Ratchet, on the other hand, no, if they decided for some inexplicable reason to give Ratchet literally every gun he's had, he has weapons for the whole, like, he could be gunning at him for, like, days and not run out of ammo. But even if they just use a single game, he still has, I think it's like 18 guns, each of which is using its own ammo supply. So if he runs out of ammo for one thing, he only loses ammo for that one gun. And then even when you're comparing the specific guns themselves, like, oh hey, cool, he's got more ammo, but what's it gonna matter if he can't kill him? A good chunk of Ratchet's guns are extremely hacksy. Like, he's got the Groovinator grenades, Groovatron grenades, which literally he throws them and the person is mindfucked into dancing, which makes it very easy for a blatant execution, which I'm hoping that that's the kill shot. Jak has no counter for that. And then there's also stuff like the Rhino, which is just more firepower than Jak has ever had to deal with. There is the... what's it called? Oh, and then he's just got, like, no matter what game you look at, Ratchet has always had extremely obvious methods of, like, transforming his enemies. And need I remind you that at the very start of, Jak and Daxter, Daxter was turned into his animal form, and they were never really able to get him back into human form. So that kind of says something. They have no counter for him being turned into an animal. ultimately, like, this is one of those very, very common requests that I'm glad they're doing, even though I've never really been a fan of Ratchet and Clank or Jak and Daxter. I've never really played much of either. But I'm still excited for the fight, because it's going to be a cool, awesome fight. But it's one-sided as all hell. Even in, like, Melee, you have, like, the fact that Clank can activate his own time stops to get out and to closer proximity. And the fact that if Ratchet uses his own his powerful weapons on Jak in close proximity, his armor is going to nullify it down so that he takes much less damage than Jak. So there's no real counter that Jak has for anything that Ratchet can do. So it's a pretty blatant open and shut fight. So I guess I will see you guys next time. There's not really anything else to talk about. And if I had to predict what the next one is, I think they've been teasing an image on Twitter, but the next one is probably going to be Quicksilver versus Flash. So look forward to that. Alright, I will see you guys then. Thank you, and have a good day.